Welcome back to Mr. Steve Harvey Motivation. Best speech men don't fall in love without respect first. And that is a truth that too many people try to skip over because it is not as romantic or dreamy as the idea of love at first sight. A man can be attracted to a woman instantly. He can feel chemistry, he can feel desire, but attraction is not love. It is temporary, it is surface level, and it does not hold the weight of something lasting. Respect, on the other hand, is what takes a man from simply being interested to being invested. Respect is what transforms curiosity into commitment. Respect is the foundation that everything else is built on, because without it, nothing will stand the test of time. When a man respects a woman, he sees her differently. He looks at her not just as someone to spend time with, but as someone he cannot afford to lose. Respect changes how he speaks to her, how he treats her, how he considers her feelings before making decisions. If that respect is not there, he may like her, he may even claim he loves her, but his actions will always betray the truth. Real love cannot exist without respect, because love is not only about how a man feels. It is about how he shows up for someone else, how he protects what he values, how he honors what he has. Respect is not something that just magically appears. It is earned, but not in the way people often think. It is not earned by how much you give, how much you sacrifice, or how much you tolerate. Respect is earned by what you require. When a woman carries herself in a way that communicates she knows her worth, when she sets standards and refuses to accept less than she deserves, she commands respect without having to beg for it. A man notices when he cannot walk over her, when he cannot feed her excuses and still keep her close, when he cannot treat her casually and still expect her loyalty. That awareness forces him to either step up or step out, and in that process respect is born. A man might admire a woman's beauty, he might enjoy her company, but admiration is not enough to make him fall in love. Men admire plenty of things, but they only invest in what they respect. Think about it. A man may admire a luxury car, but if he doesn't respect its value, he won't take care of it. He may admire a job opportunity, but if he doesn't respect the position, he won't give his best effort. Admiration is surface level, respect is deeper, respect is what makes him commit. The same is true in relationships. If he admires you but doesn't respect you, he will not protect you, he will not prioritize you, he will not fight to keep you. Respect is what makes him recognize you as someone irreplaceable. Respect also reveals the difference between lust and love. Lust is about what a man can take from you in the moment, but love is about what he is willing to build with you for the long term. Without respect, a man cannot transition from lust to love. He may desire you, but desire fades. Respect keeps him grounded. Respect is what makes him check his own behavior, what makes him rise up to the level of the standards you hold, what makes him evaluate his future and see you in it. That is when love begins to take root. When he respects you so much that he cannot imagine a future without honoring you in it. A lot of women confuse attention for love, but a man can give attention without ever feeling respect. He can text, he can call, he can spend time with you and still not love you. Attention is cheap. Respect is costly. Respect demands something of him, it stretches him, it challenges him. Respect forces a man to evaluate how serious he is, because once he knows he cannot have you without respecting you, he has to make a decision. Grow into the kind of man who deserves you or leave you alone. That decision is the turning point that separates a man who is just passing time from a man who is ready for real love. When respect is missing, you can feel it. You feel it in the way a man disregards your boundaries, in the way he dismisses your feelings, in the way he prioritizes himself at your expense. Without respect, his love will always be conditional, his loyalty will always be shaky, and his commitment will always be temporary. But when respect is present, it is evident too. He listens differently, he acts differently, he thinks twice before doing something that would hurt you. He shows up for you in ways that make you feel secure, not uncertain. Respect is the proof of love, because a man cannot love what he does not respect. That is why men don't fall in love without respect first. Love is not built on beauty alone, on attraction alone, or on chemistry alone. Those things may spark interest, but respect is what keeps the fire burning. Respect is what makes him see you not as an option, but as the only choice worth committing to. Respect is what transforms a fleeting feeling into a lifelong bond. Without respect, there is no love, only convenience. With respect, love has a foundation strong enough to last through anything. Respect comes from your standards, not your words, because anyone can talk about what they want. Anyone can say they deserve better. Anyone can make speeches about how they won't tolerate certain behaviors. But words don't hold weight if they are not backed up by consistent action. People may listen to what you say, but they believe what you show them. A man especially is always paying attention to what you allow, not just what you demand verbally. He might hear you talk about how you need consistency, how you won't accept games, how you deserve loyalty. But if your actions show that you stay even when he doesn't deliver those things, then your words lose all their power. Standards are not about talking. They are about drawing a line and standing firm behind it. When you live by your standards, you don't have to convince anyone to respect you. The way you move, the way you respond, the way you carry yourself already sends that message. If you require effort, people who approach you know it immediately. If you demand honesty, people who deal with you quickly learn that lying will cost them access. Standards act like silent boundaries that teach others how to treat you without you having to keep repeating yourself. You don't need to tell someone 10 times not to disrespect you when your standards have already shown that disrespect will never be rewarded with your presence. The mistake many make is believing that repeating their desires or venting their frustrations will change someone's behavior. But if you set a standard and then bend it every time emotions get involved, you are teaching that your standards are flexible. And once someone knows they can push your limits without real consequences, respect begins to fade. Words alone cannot earn respect because words are easy. It doesn't take strength to say you want something. It takes strength to walk away when you don't get it. It takes strength to uphold your standards even when you are afraid of losing someone you care about. That strength is what commands respect, not the speech you give. Standards are not about arrogance. They are about self-worth. When you know who you are and what you deserve, you stop settling for less just to keep someone around. You don't need to beg for respect because your life already reflects that you won't function without it. People respect what they cannot manipulate, what they cannot easily bend to their will, what forces them to rise higher. That is why standards matter more than anything you say. A person may ignore your words, but they cannot ignore the reality of what you do and do not accept. A woman with high standards is not one who talks the loudest about them. She is the one who lives them quietly but firmly. She doesn't entertain inconsistent behavior. She doesn't allow broken promises to slide without consequence. She doesn't cling to someone who doesn't value her time. By the way she acts, by the way she chooses, she communicates more powerfully than any speech could. That communication is what creates respect. A man sees that he cannot just do the bare minimum and keep her. He realizes she is not impressed by temporary attention. He understands that if he wants a place in her life, he must step up. That realization is respect in action. Your standards also set the tone for the type of relationship you will have. If you lower your standards because you don't want to lose someone, you are training them that their comfort comes before your worth. But if you maintain your standards even at the risk of losing them, you are training them that your worth is non-negotiable. The first option breeds resentment, disappointment, and imbalance. The second option breeds respect, stability, and long-term value. You always get more respect from what you walk away from than what you tolerate. Another key truth is that people test boundaries, whether intentionally or unintentionally. A man might test to see how serious you are about what you say. If you talk about wanting effort but still answer calls when he disappears for days, you've just taught him that effort is optional. If you talk about wanting commitment but keep playing the role of a committed partner while he remains undecided, you've just taught him that commitment is not required to receive your loyalty. Standards remove that confusion because they close the gap between what you say and what you do. Respect grows when there is consistency between your words and your actions. If you say one thing but do another, no one takes your standards seriously. But when you stand firm, when your behavior matches your expectations, respect becomes automatic. That's when people realize you are not someone who can be taken lightly. And that is where true love and commitment come from, because love without respect is just convenience dressed up as affection. Respect comes from your standards, not your words, because words fade in the air, but standards shape reality. Words can be ignored, argued with, or dismissed, but standards are undeniable. They are the unspoken rules that guide every interaction. They are the silent teachers that show people exactly where they stand with you. They are the foundation of how you are treated in every relationship, every friendship, every interaction. And when your standards are clear, consistent, and unshakable, you never have to ask for respect. It comes naturally because your life demands it without saying a word. A man values what he cannot treat casually, because anything that comes too easily, anything that requires no effort, no commitment, and no sacrifice, will rarely be appreciated the way it should. Human nature itself works that way. When something requires nothing of us, we don't hold it close, we don't protect it, we don't cherish it. But when something demands effort, when it pushes us to grow, when it challenges us to step up, that's when we begin to truly value it. For men, this is especially true in relationships. The more casually they are allowed to treat someone, the less value they place on that connection. The moment they realize they cannot get away with treating you lightly, the moment they see that you carry yourself with standards that demand respect, that's when they begin to value you in ways they cannot ignore. Think about it this way. If a man can text you at his convenience, disappear for days, come back whenever he wants, and you still accept him without holding him accountable, he will take you for granted. Not necessarily because he is cruel, but because there has been no reason not to. Casual treatment always leads to casual value. But when a man knows he cannot disappear and then expect to be welcomed the same, when he understands that your time and presence are not things to be played with, he automatically values what he risks losing. The possibility of loss forces him to measure the importance of what he has, and that is when value begins to grow. A man values effort because effort costs him something. If you accept the bare minimum, you'll only ever receive the bare minimum because it costs him nothing. But if you require consistency, honesty, and intentional action, and you enforce those requirements with your standards, he knows immediately that having you is not casual. He realizes that he has to invest, and that investment is what builds value in his eyes. We all treasure what we pour ourselves into, and a man is no different. The more he has to step up, the more he has to grow, the more he has to give, the more he values what he is building. The things a man does not value are always the things he can easily replace. That is why women who allow themselves to be treated casually often end up feeling invisible or disposable. When a man believes he can find the same access, the same loyalty, the same patience anywhere else, he won't hold onto it tightly. But when he knows you are not easily duplicated, when he knows you bring something rare, something not everyone can offer, something that demands his best self, then he begins to realize that losing you would mean losing something irreplaceable. That is where true value is born, not in casual comfort, but in the recognition of rarity. There is also a psychological truth here. People value what they earn more than what they are handed. A man who has to show up, prove himself, grow, and rise to meet your standards will value that relationship far more than a man who was allowed to slide into your life with no real effort. That doesn't mean you play games or make love conditional, but it does mean you understand that your worth is not given away freely to someone who has not shown that they can handle it. By being selective, by requiring consistency, by living in your worth, you create a space where a man understands that being with you is a privilege, not a casual pastime. When a man treats something casually, he doesn't guard it, he doesn't nurture it, and he doesn't fight for it when challenges come. That is why so many people experience relationships where one person is deeply invested while the other floats along. The one who is treated casually will always feel undervalued, because the other person never had to see them as a prize worth protecting. But when a man cannot treat you casually, when every interaction requires intention, when your standards demand that he show up as a man of integrity, he sees you differently. He feels a weight attached to your presence, a responsibility to treat you right, because anything less would mean losing you. Value grows in the soil of effort and respect. If he has to think before he speaks to you because he knows words matter, if he has to keep his promises because he knows broken ones won't be tolerated, if he has to prioritize you because he knows neglect will cost him the relationship, then he begins to understand that what he has is not casual. And when he sees that it's not casual, he treats it as priceless. The greatest mistake is believing that giving more of yourself without requiring more of him will make him value you. In reality, the opposite happens. The more he can get with little effort, the less he values what he's receiving. The less he can get without showing up properly, the more he values what is at stake. This is why men who work hard to win someone's heart often treat that person like treasure, because they know how much it costs them to earn her trust, her time, and her loyalty. They don't want to lose it, because losing it would mean all that effort goes to waste. But men who are given everything without having to put in the same energy rarely see the point of holding on, because it never cost them anything to begin with. Value is always tied to cost, and in relationships, that cost comes in the form of effort, respect, time, and intentional love. A man values what he cannot treat casually, because casual treatment never produces commitment. It only produces comfort, and comfort can be replaced. But when something requires his best, when it calls him to show up differently, when it refuses to be mishandled, he sees it for what it is, a gift, a prize, a treasure he cannot afford to lose. And the moment he realizes he cannot treat you casually, that's the moment he begins to truly value you. Men fall in love with challenge, not convenience, because the things that come too easy rarely hold the same weight as the things that require effort, consistency, and sacrifice. Convenience is comfortable, but it doesn't inspire growth. It doesn't demand a man's best. It doesn't make him stretch himself or prove his worth. When something is convenient, a man can enjoy it, he can even spend time with it, but he will not attach deep value to it. Love does not come from what is easy, it comes from what pushes him to rise up, what forces him to step into responsibility, what makes him work for something greater than himself. That is the challenge that transforms interest into true love. Convenience allows a man to remain the same, but challenge pushes him to become more. If being with you requires no adjustment to his habits, no accountability to his words, no consistency in his actions, then he can treat the relationship as something casual, something he picks up and puts down whenever he chooses. But if being with you demands that he show up differently, that he be intentional, that he honor his promises, then he knows he is not dealing with convenience, he is dealing with something worth fighting for. That struggle, that effort is what creates investment. The deeper the investment, the deeper the value, and the deeper the love. Think about it in every other area of life. A man does not value the things that are handed to him nearly as much as the things he worked for. A car he saved up for, a career he fought to build, a goal he sacrificed for. Those things hold a special place because of the cost attached to them. The same applies in relationships. A woman who requires no effort, no respect, no consistency may be convenient to keep around, but she won't be valued in the same way as the woman who sets standards high enough to challenge him. The challenge doesn't turn him away if he is serious. It draws him in because it awakens something inside of him that convenience never could. Men fall in love with challenge because challenge is tied to growth. A man cannot grow in comfort. He can only grow when he is stretched. A woman who has standards, boundaries, and expectations becomes that stretch. She doesn't settle for broken promises. She doesn't allow herself to be treated casually. She doesn't accept the bare minimum. Her presence demands more, and that demand pushes him to bring his best. In that process, he begins to see her as someone who makes him better, and that is where love takes root. Love is not just about enjoying someone, it is about valuing how they elevate your life. Convenience never creates urgency. If a man knows you will always be there no matter how he treats you, if he knows you will accept him on his terms regardless of effort, then he has no urgency to commit, no urgency to change, no urgency to prioritize you. But if he knows that failing to step up could cost him access to you, if he knows that inconsistency will push you away, then urgency is born, and urgency creates focus. Focus makes him intentional. Intentionality creates love because it forces him to move beyond feelings and into consistent action. Challenge also separates those who are serious from those who are not. A man who only wants convenience will walk away when faced with standards that demand more. He will see it as too much work, too much effort, too much accountability. But the man who is ready for love will see that same challenge as proof of your value. He will rise to meet it because he understands that nothing worth having comes easy. The challenge filters out the temporary and reveals the permanent. It forces him to decide whether he is just passing time or whether he is truly ready to build something lasting. When a man falls in love with a challenge, he is not falling in love with difficulty for the sake of difficulty. He is falling in love with the reward that comes from overcoming it, the reward of knowing he earned your trust, the reward of knowing he had to grow to keep your love, the reward of knowing he could not take you lightly. That reward is sweeter because it wasn't given to him casually. It had to be pursued, protected, and preserved. That pursuit is what transforms ordinary attraction into extraordinary love. Convenience never creates that kind of bond. Convenience creates complacency. It allows him to drift, to take you for granted, to assume you will always be there. Challenge keeps him alert, intentional, and engaged. Challenge makes him think twice about his actions. Challenge reminds him that if he wants to keep you, he has to honor you. Challenge is not about playing games. It is about living in such a way that you do not compromise your worth. That natural challenge is what makes him see you as someone unique, someone who cannot be replaced, someone he is willing to fight for. A man falls in love with challenge because it forces him to step into his role as a protector, a provider, a partner. It pulls out the part of him that wants to conquer, to achieve, to claim something rare and valuable. When love is tied to challenge, it has depth, it has strength, it has longevity. When love is tied only to convenience, it fades the moment something easier or more comfortable comes along. Challenge anchors love because it shows him that what he has is not ordinary. What he has is extraordinary, and extraordinary things are never convenient. That is why men fall in love with challenge, not convenience. Because love is not meant to be effortless, it is meant to be intentional. It is meant to be proven, protected, and pursued. A challenge makes him rise higher, while convenience allows him to stay the same. And no man truly falls in love with what requires nothing of him. He falls in love with what makes him become more than he was before. Attention is not the same as intention, and confusing the two is one of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to understand relationships. Attention can feel exciting, it can feel validating, it can feel like proof that someone cares, but in reality, attention is easy to give and often comes with no real commitment behind it. Intention, on the other hand, is what reveals the truth about a person's heart and plans. Intention shows up in consistency, in effort, in the willingness to follow through. Where attention may excite you in the moment, intention sustains you for the long run. That's why it's dangerous to mistake one for the other. Attention often comes in quick bursts. A man can text you good morning every day for a week, call you when he's bored, compliment your looks, or make you laugh. That's attention. But if those actions aren't backed up by a bigger purpose, if there's no follow-through, no depth, no consistency, then it's just surface level. Intention, by contrast, has direction. Intention says, I'm not just giving you my time right now, I'm building something with you for later. Intention carries responsibility. Attention just entertains. The reason so many get caught up in attention is because it feels good. When someone notices you, when they make you feel seen, when they show excitement in the moment, it feeds the desire to be wanted. But wanting you and planning for you are two different things. A man can want you for a season, for convenience, for company, but if his intention isn't aligned with building, then the attention is just temporary. Intention requires him to think beyond today. It requires him to take steps toward creating a future with you, and that's what separates real love from passing interest. A man can give attention to multiple people at the same time. He can compliment one woman, text another, and spend time with another. Attention can be scattered, divided, and inconsistent, but intention is always focused. Intention says, I choose you. Intention narrows his focus because it means he is not just enjoying you casually. He is planning for you deliberately. That's why intention has more value than attention. You can give attention to anyone, but you can only give true intention to someone you are serious about. Attention is cheap. It costs nothing to send a quick message, to like a picture, to share a joke, to say flattering words. Intention, however, is costly. It requires sacrifice. It requires alignment between actions and words. It requires consistency when it's inconvenient, loyalty when it's tested, and effort when it would be easier to walk away. Intention makes demands on a person's character, and that is why it carries weight. It reveals whether someone truly values you or just enjoys the idea of you. When you accept attention as proof of love, you set yourself up for disappointment, because attention without intention will always fade. The man who gives attention without intention will only stay as long as it is easy, as long as it is fun, as long as it benefits him. But the man who has intention will stay even when it's difficult, even when it requires effort, even when it demands compromise. Attention is for the moment, intention is for the future. The difference between attention and intention can often be seen in patterns. Attention is inconsistent, it shows up when it's convenient. Intention is steady, it shows up even when it's inconvenient. Attention is words, intention is action. Attention says, I like you. Intention says, I choose you and I'm proving it every day. Attention feels good, but intention builds trust. Without trust, no relationship can survive. Attention also often disguises itself as love when it is really just infatuation or desire. A man can shower you with attention because he desires you physically or because he enjoys the thrill of pursuit. But once that desire is satisfied, or once the thrill wears off, his attention fades. Intention doesn't fade because it's not built on feelings alone. It's built on commitment. Intention doesn't depend on mood or circumstance. It is a decision, a plan, a direction. That's why intention is the true measure of where someone stands with you. It is important to test whether attention is backed by intention. You do this not by asking for constant reassurance, but by observing actions over time. Does he show up when it matters, or only when it's easy? Does he follow through on his promises, or are his words empty? Does he prioritize you consistently, or only when he has nothing else going on? These questions separate attention from intention, because someone who only gives attention will disappoint you once life gets harder, but someone who has intention will stay consistent no matter what. Attention can make you feel wanted, but intention makes you feel secure. Attention feeds the ego, but intention nurtures the heart. Attention excites you for a season, but intention builds with you for a lifetime. When a man has true intention, he doesn't just want your presence, he wants your partnership. He doesn't just enjoy your company, he envisions a future with you. That's why the most important thing you can do is learn to distinguish between the two. Because while attention may attract you, intention is what sustains you. Love begins with your standards, not his feelings, because what you allow sets the stage for how a relationship will unfold. A man's feelings may draw him toward you, his attraction may spark his interest, and his emotions may make him pursue you for a season, but feelings alone cannot sustain love. Feelings are fleeting, they shift with moods, circumstances, and convenience. Standards, on the other hand, are steady. Standards create structure, they communicate worth, and they establish boundaries. Without standards, love has no foundation. With standards, love has direction, accountability, and longevity. When you lead with standards, you send a message about who you are and what you will and will not accept. You communicate your value without saying a word. A man may have strong feelings for you, but if your standards are absent, those feelings won't stop him from mistreating you, neglecting you, or taking you for granted. Feelings without boundaries always lead to inconsistency. Standards are what turn his feelings into commitment, because they require him to prove that his emotions are backed by action. Feelings are easy. Anyone can feel attraction, desire, or even affection. But love is not built on easy emotions. Love is built on responsibility, loyalty, and sacrifice. Those qualities do not come from how strongly a man feels. They come from how seriously he respects your standard. When you set boundaries around your time, your body, your trust, and your presence, you teach him that love requires effort. You teach him that he cannot simply float in and out of your life based on his mood. You teach him that love is not about how much he feels for you in the moment, but about how much he is willing to invest to keep you in his life. Love that begins with feelings alone often burns bright but fades quickly. A man can be swept up in excitement, call you every day, shower you with attention, and feel like he's in love. But if there are no standards to ground that love, the first challenge, the first temptation, or the first inconvenience will shake it apart. Standards keep love rooted. They keep it steady when emotions fluctuate. They make sure that the connection is not just about how he feels, but about how he treats you consistently. Without that, love remains shallow and fragile. Your standards are not about control, they are about self-respect. They are the invisible guidelines that show him what is required to build a future with you. They show him what kind of behavior is acceptable and what is not. They show him how serious he has to be if he wants to stay. A man may come into your life with strong feelings, but if you don't hold to your standards, those feelings won't be enough to stop him from slipping into comfort, from offering you less than you deserve, or from giving you only temporary commitment. But when your standards are firm, his feelings alone are not enough. He must rise to meet the requirements your worth demands. When you prioritize his feelings over your standards, you end up compromising more than you should. You accept inconsistency because you don't want to upset him. You tolerate neglect because you're afraid of losing him. You settle for less because you value his emotions over your principles. But this does not create love, it creates imbalance. It teaches him that his feelings matter more than your worth. Over time, this dynamic erodes respect, and without respect, love cannot survive. On the other hand, when you prioritize your standards, you attract not just a man who feels for you, but a man who is willing to act for you. He doesn't just say he loves you, he shows it. He doesn't just enjoy you, he protects and values you. He doesn't just admire you, he commits to you. Standards filter out the ones who are only there for convenience and reveal the ones who are truly ready for commitment. Standards make sure his feelings are not just emotions, but the starting point of intentional action. A man may tell you he loves you, but words without alignment to your standards mean nothing. Real love is not proven in what he says, but in how he responds to the boundaries you set. If he adjusts his behavior, if he becomes more consistent, if he grows into the role of a committed partner, that is love rooted in respect for your standards. If he ignores them, if he dismisses them, if he pushes past them, then no matter how much he says he loves you, his feelings are shallow. Love that cannot honor standards is not love at all. It is selfishness disguised as affection. Love begins with your standards because your standards define the quality of love you will experience. When you hold them firm, you create space for a man's feelings to grow into respect, for respect to grow into commitment, and for commitment to grow into lasting love. When you abandon them, you create space for a man's feelings to dictate everything, and feelings alone are too unstable to build anything real. Standards ensure that love is not just emotional, but intentional. They ensure that love is not just about how he feels, but about how he shows up. That is why your standards are not optional, they are essential. They are not there to make love harder, they are there to make love stronger. They turn feelings into action, action into consistency, and consistency into trust. Without them, you are left with words and emotions that can shift at any moment. With them, you are building on a foundation that no passing feeling can shake. Love does not begin when a man feels deeply for you. It begins when your standards demand that those feelings translate into respect, action, and commitment.